All right, today we're going to learn a very practical halacha. Every Shabbos we go through this. Are you allowed to move any garbage left on the Shabbos table, or there's a shaila of muktzah? So there are basically, we could say, 2/3 shittas if you're allowed to do, if you're allowed or not, and how to do it. So first of all, it's a Mishnah in Maseches Shabbos, Daf Kuf Mem Gimel, like this: the Shammai Umrim Ma'avirim me'al hashulchan atzomas v'klipin. The Shammai said you could remove if there's any bones that's not edible, any shells. Meaning Basil saying no, you have to remove the whole table or the table cover, because you cannot touch the muktzah on its own. You have to do it with put something else on the table, the other things on the table, that or you could just get rid of it without touching it directly. And then the Gemara goes and reverses the Gemara says that the names on this have to be reversed. Rav Nachman says in the Gemara. So B'Shabbos says Besil. So Halacha like Besil. Besil oimrim ma'avirim atzomas v'klipin. Now, interesting. Rashi says over here, what kind of atzomas we're talking about? Rashi says koshen shenan ruim lekelev. Such atzomas that even you cannot give it to the dog. The Tosfos disagree with him. Says no, only atzomas ruim with dog. So the Lamaisa, there's one shita, the Shiltei HaGiborim. The Eliyahu Rabbah brings the shita. He says B'Shiltei HaGiborim. Kosav, the Nagin ha'idna l'taltel klipe egoizim v'shkeidim u'botnim koshim the samchinan al Rashi. So that's one shita. That's the most makel shita. You could remove even a real thing that eggshells, thing that nobody going to eat them, and a dog would not eat them, bone that nobody going to eat, and things that's mamash in a row to anybody, not to a human, not to a dog. You could remove it because according to the way Rashi says in the Ma'avirim Atomas V'Kil, Rashi says even things which is not edible to a dog. According to this, that's what he says with soymechan. However, the Eliyahu Rabbah brings miu habach kosa the gam Rashi model maskana the osur. I don't want to go to the whole arichus. Rashi the Bach says the way we changed between B'Shav B'Sil, we reversed the names. Something the shita was reversed. That according to Rashi, Maskim says that the maskana the divra Tosfos only such a atzama, such a bones you could remove that's edible to the dog. If it's not, it's muktzah. Now I mentioned this already last week. When we say ruim lekelev, ruim lebehemo, that's we already learned in Shulchan Aruch. Only if it's motzui, only if things that are in the area you have. Excuse me, you have dogs, or you have in the area, even though you don't have in your own home, you have animals. But if that's not motzut, b'yomeinu, most places people don't own dogs or animals. Memela, you cannot. You cannot. They become muktzah, whether they have on them some meat on the bones or not. They're the same thing. So Lamaisa, like I said, there's one shit that the most makel you could remove a Shiltei HaGiborim. That's how we learn Pshat and Rashi. But according to the Bach, which is many follow the Bach on this, you should not do that. So what Lamaisa to do according to the Machmirim? What to do? You're eating after the meal. After the meal, the table full of bones and klipe egoizim, shell of other nuts or eggs. Well, what are you going to do with it? So that's what the Shulchan Aruch brings in Shin Chetz Halacha Chav Zayin. Atzoma sheruiyim leklovim v'klifim sheruiyim lemachal behema. Anything that you could give it to the animals. Upirurim she'en b'hem kazais mutar la'avirim al hashulchan. You're allowed to remove them because they're not muktzah. Again, I said if today we don't have our bones today, we don't have dogs at home for most people. If not motzu, you don't have animals. That will become that doesn't apply then because it's a muktzah. If it's not, you cannot give it to the dog, or because we don't have dogs or animals. Also, you cannot. So what are you going to do? You shake off the table, or you shake off the plastic cover, or whatever cover you have on the table, and they fall out. You don't touch the muktzah behedya. You don't touch it. Or you could move the whole table. Today it's also not practical. We don't. The olden days they used to bring the table, remove the table from the person. Today the table is stationed in one place. We don't move, so that's not an eitzah then. That's eitzah for us today. Now, that's you could say maybe it's applied. We're going to see nuts also. Not the muktzah. That's a shulchan. You want to remove the table again. It's also I don't need the place of the I need the table itself. So what are you going to do lemaisa? The Taz brings one heter. The Taz says like this: Vuadin shmuter legorim al des sakin min hamapo kivan del noga boim havale tiltel min atzad. So the Taz says you could take something without touching the muktzah directly. It's based also on a Gemara. If you don't touch the thing directly, you will touch it with something else. And Memela, he says you could do it. Lahalocha, the Mishnah Berurah brings this taz. You could Memela. Let's say you want to clean the table, not with your hand, with something else, some knife, a spoon, or something, not directly touching the. You also could do that. However, this heter, the buyer heter himself questions because of a kosher. The Siman Shin Yud Aleph, Siman Konon Beis, Oiser Atas, Nitchav Davar Shu Muksa Edek Kone. He himself, the Taz himself, Soiser Atzmo. He later on, 3 chapters later, the Taz says you cannot do this. That's why the Maskana, the Alter Rebbe Paskins, that you cannot do it through something else. The Alter Rebbe says clearly here in Shin Ches. Siman Seif Samach, Halacha Samach. Also la'aviron me'al hashulchan ben beyodov ben bedover acher shebeyodov. Kagon legaran besakin v'keitzavay. In the footnote they say that the Choyre Alter Rebbe holds that the Taz was choizer boy. Since 3 chapters later, he writes you cannot do it choizer. However, many achronim learn that the Taz was not choizer boy. They say the Taz said to take muktzeh with something else that you cannot do. But when you have other heter, you need the place. You need that it bothers you to have such a not clean place. Together you could do it. The Mishnah Berurah is more makel. Okay, but there's another eitzah how to do this. It looks like on the surface, if somebody doesn't really study the sugya, it looks like the machlokes with an Alter Rebbe and Mishnah Berurah. When I looked into it, it's bechal not choilek with each other. Here's what the Mishnah Berurah says, like this: Gabe moving after the meal, the garbage from the table. It's like this. Vu adin. Yeah, no. You have a lot of, after the meal, you have a lot of garbage on the table, leftovers that you have to remove. Humos olav la'nichan, kachal shulchan. It's mostly. It's not. You don't want to sit next to it. Mutar la'aviran b'yadayim. The Shulchan Aruch don't say such a heter. That's the Mishnah Berurah saying. You're allowed to touch the muktzeh, meaning the eggshell and all the other atzamas and bones, to take them with your hands. The havu will didek graf shel rei. It's like a graf shel rei. We learned about last week. It's like a waste of babies or rooster, which is it's Chazal allow you to take it away. So literally, if you look at the lashon of the Gemara says like this. Here at the same page, Kuf Mem Gimel. The Gemara says, Rav Huna bred Rav Yeshua ovid look a graf shel rei. Masha Rav Huna did like this. He says, I cannot sit next to it, so he removed it. It's graf shel rei, allowed you to move. However, the Alter Rebbe does not bring this heter. He does not mention this heter whatsoever. So it looks like on the surface, and that's why I have a Mishnah Berurah with the Piskei the Kute Haram, and they say like this. It's which is that eitzah that you throw it. The olden days they could throw away the food in the house, in the behind you. It didn't bother them as long as it's not on the table. That's also was in the Gemara. Rav Sheshes Zorak lo belishnei. He took straight from it. He says it's all this. It is also brought in the Gemara. However, it looks like so the Alter Rebbe does not hold from the heter of Rav Huna. It should be graf shel rei because it doesn't mention this, and that's how they bring over here. Like I said in this print that they said he says the Alter Rebbe doesn't mask it. I must say it's not to bechal. It's not a machlokes between both of them, because later on in the same chapter it's brought in Shulchan Aruch later on like this. Maybe I highlighted over here maybe. That in Halacha Lamed Vov in the same Siman Shin Ches says, and that the Mechaber brings, and everybody quotes this. Last month the Palag this, and oisim graf shel rei lechatchila. The eitzah to say, the table is full of garbage. I cannot sit on this table. Lechatchila, you cannot do it. You did it lechatchila on Shabbos. And oisim shel lechatchila. Dahainu lohovi dover sheosid limois. You're doing something. You know, eventually at the end of the meal, you're not gonna. It's not gonna be gishmak to you to sit next to it. That you cannot do lechatchila on Shabbos. They lo yitziu lechimos. Oh, now I could take it out. You cannot do this lechatchila. V'im over v'asoy muter lo yitzia. If you did it already, muter. So mine says like this. Nobody choy like this. That's Shulchan Aruch. Everybody asking. That's why the Alter Rebbe doesn't mention this heter as lechatchila. And Mishnah Berurah asking with that too. Lechatchila, you cannot say I'm going to throw away all my eggshells and bones on the table and then I'll remove them. And oisim graf shel rei lechatchila. You cannot do this lechatchila. If you did it, Alter Rebbe also asking me. So they talk about the Mishnah Berurah spoke about the b'di'evet, which is the Alter Rebbe asking that you could remove it. The Alter Rebbe says about lechatchila, don't do it. Mishnah Berurah asking with them too. It's no machlokes. So Lamaisa, what to do? So the Elia Rabbah brings eitzem. He says the best thing is really to bring a kli on the table and put over there everything lechatchila instead of throwing it on on the table, put a kli, and the kli usually have some food also that's edible, maybe a piece of bread, maybe a piece of meat that's with the bone. Since it's edible, that you're allowed to move it. When muktzah and not muktzah in the same place, you're allowed to remove it. Or another eitzah like we do over here, we'll put the plastic covers on the table. At the end of the meal, we'll remove the whole plastic cover. That's also a heter because we don't touch the muktzah behedya, we take it together, whatever is on it, something on it is not a muktzah. So l'maisa, like this. So the best thing is, like I said, it's to be careful with this inyan on Shabbos as to put a kli, to put a kli, put everything in the kli. In the kli, like that, you might have a piece of bread, you might have something else. The meile, it's muktzah and muktzah. That kli, then you could move the kli. But to make like a graf shel rei thing, I'm going to remove it with my hands. That's not appropriate. Okay.